It wouldn't be a normal week without Draymond Green stirring things up with his trash-talking antics, wouldn't it? Draymond has been going around dissing the likes of Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, and Kendrick Perkins. Fact is, Draymond Green has not only cemented himself as an NBA Hall of Famer, but as one of the best trash talkers of his generation. Just listen to how he destroyed Kendrick Perkins. It's the smallest edge that wins someone in the NBA Finals, and because all these dumb talking heads never done it, they don't understand it. Even the one that's done it don't act like he's done it, because he's an idiot and a moron, and wasn't really that good of a player. I'm talking about Kendrick Perkins, by the way. Ouch. The interesting part about this isn't necessarily Green's comments, as it's not the first time guys like Draymond Green or JJ Redick have gone after guys like Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, and Kendrick Perkins, starting an old media versus new media war on social media. But what is this old media and new media? When we think about old media in the traditional sense, we're talking about guys who covered basketball news through the papers, radio, magazines, and so on. But when you talk about old media using Draymond Green's definition or the way he's been putting it on his podcast, we're talking about all the theatrics you see on TV with the likes of Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, and the rest of the so-called analysts. In today's world, we'll call them the old media. When we say new media, on the other hand, we're talking about the generation on the internet and social media. Social media has changed the way athletes, teams, and fans interact with each other. From live tweeting during games, to trolling other players on Twitter, or creating memes like the James Harden eye roll, or the crying Jordan. Fans are no longer simply watching the game as they did in the 80s, 90s, or even the early 2000s, as they are now becoming more connected to the game. Many players like LeBron James, KD, or Draymond Green, on the other hand, are controlling their narratives or what's been said about them. They are either fighting back or preaching their own message to the fans, either by tweeting their opinions on Twitter, like KD, or by creating their own podcast shows where they air their own opinions. These players are fighting back, and that's exactly what Draymond Green, who has made himself the face of the so-called quote-unquote new media, is doing. The four-time NBA champion has called the likes of Kendrick Perkins, as we saw earlier on, and these so-called analysts, such as Nick Wright, Bill Simmons, and Brian Windhorst, for the lack of integrity when it comes to what they say about players on TV. Malcolm X once said, "The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent, and that's power, because they control the minds of the masses." This is exactly what people like Draymond Green and JJ Redick are pointing at. The old media is always chasing controversies and making hot takes just to stir up the conversation. That people like Stephen A. Smith continues to say things like, "I wouldn't trade Westbrook for a bag of chips," calling Zion Williamson fat and overweight, or saying Wiggins ain't good enough to be in the NBA. They believe that with time, people are going to start believing them just because the number of people that tune in to watch them daily. Skip Bayless, spending the better part of the past decade trolling LeBron, is a good example of how the old media wants to tear athletes down. And a lot of times, the main problem is that these old media analysts have never played in the NBA, or even played sports at a professional level. Speaking at a roundtable with JJ Redick and Stephen A. Smith, Draymond explained where his big issue with the old media is. The problem is you got too many people in the media who want to act like they know what you know. No, you can't compete with the dudes that are actually doing it. He also made it clear what he thinks the new media is. For me, the new media is very simple. It's actually analyzing the game of basketball. It's actually giving flowers when flowers is due. It's being critical. It's not just saying, "Oh man, Steph Curry was great, and when he wasn't great, I'm not going to speak on it." Be very critical. But tell us the whole truth and break down why Steph Curry wasn't great. Yes, it's totally true that some of the hot takes on players can be straight up BS sometimes. But what effects do they have on players and franchises? What impact do these false criticism and name-calling have on them? Zion has been called all sorts of names, and yet the Pelicans are on the verge of signing the forward to a max contract worth $231 million, even though he missed the entirety of last season. LeBron is another good example. The Lakers superstar is one of the most hated NBA players on social media, and despite all the name-calling by Skip Bayless, LeBron still became the first active NBA player to be worth $1 billion. On the other hand, which Stephen A. Smith pointed out, is that nobody is going to be paid just to keep talking about Steph Curry having a decent game, or Giannis developing a better three-point shot during the offseason. The truth is, those kinds of topics don't sell that well on TV. Controversy sells, and that's what guys like Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith have come to understand. Take this for example. Skip Bayless is arguably one of the most hated personalities in sport, but yet he has nearly 3.5 million followers on Twitter. He's paid $5.5 million every year to debate on Fox Sports Undisputed with Shannon Sharpe. So when Bayless or Stephen A. Smith talk trash about Draymond Green, Kyrie, or LeBron, they do it because they want you to trash talk back at them. You aren't beating them at their game by speaking out. You are playing their game. Come on, Fox and ESPN viewers don't tune in because they think Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, and Shannon Sharpe are giving the critical analysis on the game of basketball. They tune in because they want to hear what crazy things they're going to say next. They do it because it's merely a source of entertainment to them. ESPN literally stands for Entertainment and Sports Programming Network. These guys aren't the enemies the players think they are. They're only acting as villains in a dramatic way. In the end, it's all for entertainment. Whether you like the theatrics and the hot takes, or you appreciate the art and skills of the game, you're still a fan. You can't deny that the likes of Draymond Green and Redick have made television worth tuning into again. Just look at how great it was watching CJ McCollum frying Stephen A. Smith for saying that he didn't like Westbrook for being at a Lakers press conference when they introduced their new head coach, Darvin Ham. It was television at its best, and as a fan, I love the players that are becoming the new media, and we can appreciate the game from a whole new perspective. There's so much behind the game of basketball, and I can't wait to dive deeper into more basketball content and analysis. And in the end, we need the old media as much as we need the new media. So, what's your take on old media versus new media? Leave your comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more NBA content.